I stared at the vibrating light on my phone. Please see the attached letter regarding the committee's decision. I had read the email a dozen times, each word pressed in like a thumb bruise. The committee room smelled faintly of burnt coffee and old printer ink. I remember glancing at the chipped edge of the table as I stepped in. 3 professors sat across from me, Dr. Hammond, Director Lin, and pale, reticent Dr. Villeneuve. Their faces were unreadable, and I tried not to scan their folded hands for clues. My proposal, integrating AI-driven genetic mapping for rare disease prediction, had cost me months of sleep. I believed if we designed a self-learning engine, it could sort through biobank data, tracing genetic mysteries that killed children before adolescence. At the time, it felt audacious, necessary. Dr. Hammond pushed his glasses up and cleared his throat. Frankly, Myra, this is out of scope. Your methods are untested, the budget projections a bit fanciful, don't you think? Director Lin didn't look at me directly. The university needs projects with near-term yield. Yours is speculative, and she trailed off, lost to her spreadsheet. A pause waited with everything unsaid. We're sorry, Dr. Villeneuve murmured. Perhaps focus on something more expected. I left the room numb. The hallway echoed with muffled laughter from undergrads, shoes squeaking down the polished corridor. As I pushed open the heavy glass doors, I gulped at the spring air, trying to swallow down the surge in my chest. The sun caught on the stone buildings and pried at my eyes. I walked to the 96th Street subway like I could walk straight off the map. I didn't tell anyone for a week. I tried to write emails pretending nothing had happened. But the news ran through campus faster than gossip. Some nights I sat in my dorm, listening to the wind snake around the fire escape, replaying the committee's words in my mind, speculative, fanciful, out of scope. My own voice answered back, fierce even then. If nobody tries, how does anything ever change? That night I called my mother. She sighed so hard I could hear it over the line. Maybe you aim too high. You know, your cousin has a stable job, works at the hospital, good benefits. Maybe research is not so practical. From the other room my brother laughed, trying to be the next Einstein or something, in AI too. Nobody gets jobs for that here. His friends snickered, their voices rolling through the kitchen, blurry and sharp at the same time. I'd been called impractical my whole life. At the festival, when I toted home bags of dissected frogs and models instead of bangles, at report card nights, when teachers shook their heads over my obsession with algorithms instead of sports teams. Each comment settled on me like layers of paint, dulling the outline of who I wanted to be. After rejection, the world grew colder. I finished out the semester with mechanical precision. The city became a grey blur, scaffolding, sirens, a low hum of trains at night. I applied everywhere, mostly silence, sometimes polite. Your research is too speculative. Practical, always that word rattling. My friends drifted off to hospital residencies or finance. I stayed, cobbling together gig work, my proposal thick in my drawer. It was in my tiny studio, window facing the flashing neon of the bodega across Amsterdam Avenue, where I nearly broke. Bills caught up, my landlord glared at my late rent slips. Each morning I stared at my reflection, eyes puffy, resolve thinned down to a filament. For months, resumes came and went, networking events left me sore. Research positions vanished. One evening, scrolling a forum past midnight, I found a post. Early biotech startup seeks algorithmic minds, risk-tolerant only. The ad was spare, not even a company name. But risk-tolerant felt like code for no funding yet, lots of failure. I applied anyway, hitting send with nothing left to lose. A week later, I trudged into a warehouse in Dumbo. Inside, it was all plywood desks and tangles of wires, whiteboards scrawled with diagrams. 3 people sat at computers. The founder, Theo, wore glasses with a chip in one lens. He didn't flinch at the gaps in my resume or the story behind my project. We're building a new predictive engine for early-onset rare disease detection, Theo said. AI, bioinformatics, no one thinks this'll work yet. But someone has to try, are you in? My laugh came out dry. If no one else, why not? From that moment, my hunger shot into focus. The lab was nothing like the grant-funded campus. We scavenged parts, built models on borrowed servers. Funds were so tight that lunches were instant noodles, dinners courtesy of friends who'd been paid that week. But every day, as I watched our algorithms gain nuance, drawing connections no human could see, I felt something ignite inside me. We poured months into data, hospital records, genome banks, case studies. There were days the code failed, models spat nonsense, or a crucial dataset evaporated when a partner dropped out. Nights blurred into mornings. Theo and I slept in shifts on beanbags, waking to the hum of the server fans. It was not glamorous, but we were possessed. People still scoffed. At meetups, bigger companies patted our heads. Advisors from my old university said, "It's a pipe dream, you'll burn out. The field's saturated and no one wants to fund unproven ideas." Their skepticism dug in deeper than I'd admit. Sometimes I'd lie awake and hear their voices in my head, like a chorus, all saying the same thing: too airy, too risky, never practical. The fear gnawed at me in quiet hours. But every time we traced a new predictor, a thread between mutation and disease, the defiance flared up again. A child saved, even just in simulation, proved them wrong. Slowly it started to click: one hospital pilot program. Then two, we partnered with genetic counselors, built case studies. Our platform, GeneSense, grew teeth, parsing through billions of data points, making associations even seasoned geneticists had missed. The first time a pilot doctor wrote us, "You helped us catch a lethal disease before symptoms began," Theo and I sat in stunned silence, then laughed, realizing it was real. 2 years passed in a blink. Venture capital circled in, cautious but curious. The headlines shifted, a tremor in the field, startups using AI to crack impossible diagnoses, hospitals called weekly. Yoshiko, our lead engineer, cried the first time a mother thanked us for giving her daughter a real chance. Every small win, I tasted the salt of tears behind my teeth. Their voices still lurked on the edge, but with each report, each thank you note, they grew smaller. I worked nights building new risk models, my hands steady at last. When GeneSense was acquired by a major hospital system in Manhattan, the news ran everywhere. Interviews, podcasts, dreamlike blur. Theo handed me our first plaque, glass etched with my name beside his. "You did it," he said, voice tight. I wanted for a minute to vanish into that feeling, but before the ink dried on the contract, my mother called. "Your uncle heard the news on television. When will you visit?" I hadn't been home in 4 years. The return train wound out from Penn Station, each mile crawling with memories. New York morphed, glass and steel receding into suburban lawns and clusters of stoic houses. As we got closer, I could feel myself shrinking, the old armor growing back tight on my ribs. My mother greeted me at the door, her arms awkward, as if she still wasn't sure how to hold me after all this time. She was smaller, her hair streaked with new grey. My brother hovered behind her, taller now, a faint aura of superiority about his stance. "You've lost weight," she said, not quite approving. "I'm fine, Ma." I stepped inside, the familiar clatter of kitchen chairs grounding me. Dinner was a subdued affair. My uncle and aunt had joined, their faces polite but curious, watching me as some exotic animal. Plates scraped, silverware hiding the tension. "So," my uncle broke the silence, digging into roast chicken, "this machine you built, is it like the ones on TV or is it another academic thing?" A smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Actually," I said, heart thumping, "it's approved in 3 hospital systems now. We're saving lives, children mostly." My brother snorted softly. "Saving lives, not to diminish, sis, but come on, computers diagnosing kids. Isn't that what doctors are for?" His friends used to say the same behind my back in high school hallways. I looked at him, then at my mother, who fidgeted with her ring. Fear welled again, but I choked it down, pushing out words. "It's not about replacing doctors. It helps them, connects the dots they'd never find on their own. It's already caught things that would have killed patients." He shrugged, unconvinced. Late that evening, I sat on my old bed, the walls still plastered with curling science fair ribbons and faded astronomy posters. Downstairs, my family's voices rose and fell. I felt the sting of their skepticism as raw as I had at the start. No matter how far I'd come, this room made me feel like that girl with impossible dreams, waiting for someone to believe in her. The next day, my mother insisted we go to the community summer fair, show your face, make your father proud. We walked past the baseball diamond, past booths stacked with cornhusk dolls and funnel cakes. Every turn brought another neighbor nudging back for a visit. "Heard of your big job, what's it you do again?" I smiled and nodded, counting breaths, but each time I tried to explain, their eyes glazed over. "Artificial intelligence. Like those robots on the news. We need more nurses, not robots." The words thudded, a tired chorus. After lunch, my old high school science teacher, Mr. Porter, hobbled over, cane tapping out a rhythm. His face was aging, but his gaze sharp as ever. "Myra, your mother tells me you're working in the city." His voice was kind, but tinged with doubt, as if remembering the committee stories, how I always overshot, how my projects failed on paper. He gestured to the crowd. Would you mind? There's an alumna panel in the gym. Talk to the kids about your work. I wanted to run to hide, but that old stubbornness braced my spine. Sure, I said, inside my lungs coiled tight. The gym was humid, bleachers packed with students, their faces bored, phones glowing. I watched the others before me, engineers, a finance director, a nurse practitioner, each greeted with easy applause. When I stepped to the mic, a hush fell, heavier than the city's silence after rejection. I cleared my throat, sweat prickling under my collar. When I was your age, I wanted to work in genetics and computers. People told me it was ridiculous, science fiction, not real work. Soft laughter rippled. That dream got me mocked, rejected at universities, even laughed at by my family. My mother flinched in the audience. I swallowed, pressing on, but I kept working, sometimes in basements, sometimes in borrowed labs, often hungry and scared. I built an engine that can find diseases in children before the symptoms show, not a robot, a tool. Last year, 3 kids in New York are alive because of it. A girl in the front row tilted forward, eyes wide, the skeptical laughter faded. So, to anyone here who's been told they want too much, let them laugh, let them doubt. But don't stop, the impossible is just something nobody has bothered to try yet. I stepped down to polite applause, not roaring but with a different undercurrent, a few faces intent, thoughtful. As the event ended, Mr. Porter pulled me aside. You know, Myra, I never thought you'd make it. Too imaginative, too stubborn, but I've never been happier to be proven wrong. His handshake was firm, almost proud. Later, as I waited outside the gym, my brother sidled up, hands in his pockets. So those kids, they're really alive because of your thing. I met his gaze. Yes, I could show you the reports. He nodded, subdued. Maybe I was wrong. Proud of you, sis. That evening my mother found me by the old lilac bush in the backyard. The scent was lush, heavy in the twilight. She wrapped an arm around my shoulders, her grip hesitant, then firmer. I didn't understand, Myra. I just wanted you to be safe, stable. I know, Ma. A pause, but you did something good, I see now. The next day, word spread, not just in whispers in church or supermarket lines, but in real, concrete proof. Mr. Porter carried the local news article from the city. AI biotech startup saves local family. Photos of a girl from the next town who'd been given a second chance. He showed it to anyone who doubted, passing my name along like a blessing. Neighbors stopped by not to question or mock, but to ask, could the engine help diagnostic problems they'd faced? Bit by bit, the weight of skepticism lifted. I walked the streets of New York that fall, the city no longer a blurred wall but a place of possibility. My defiance hadn't faded, it was just tempered, clarified. The flashing neon outside my now larger apartment was a familiar pulse. I worked late nights, but now they were filled with purpose rather than desperation. Still, some nights I returned to my childhood home. I sat with my mother under the lilacs, breathing in the new peace between us. She'd bring out her knitting, asking about my next research project, her questions curious, respectful now. Returning wasn't about victory or showing off success. It was about finding balance between the old wounds and the new hope, carrying both forward, scar and shining edge alike. Even surrounded by those who once doubted me, I found a stillness, a place to belong. The chorus of skeptics faded, replaced by quieter, stronger voices, the patients whose lives we'd helped, my team back at the warehouse Stern Lab, the mentors who'd finally admitted pride. The old fear was still there, but it kept me honest. I knew then, rejection would always sting, but it had shaped me. The struggle was part of every breakthrough, not the mark of failure, but the crucible of defiance. And every time I returned, every time I stood on the ground where I'd been mocked, I could feel it, the pulse of the future, alive beneath my feet.